Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Pastors After Dark. Thank you so much for joining us. Tonight, we have a very special show in store for you. But before we get into what we're going to be talking about, let me introduce some of my guests. First, I'll say hi. I am Pastor Dustin. I'll be hosting tonight's conversation. But let me introduce you to some of these amazing gentlemen. Streaming the show tonight is the one and only Super Shadow. Say hello to everybody.
Hey guys, how's it going? Excited to be here with you guys. It's gonna be a good show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And then keeping all the gates will be Ferris Storm, the master of sass himself. So throughout the night, all questions at him in the chat. Say hi, Ferris.
What's going on, guys? Hello, welcome, and go Astros.
Yes, as a Houston born Texan myself, born and raised 18 years, first 18 years of my life there. I don't care anything about sports, but I go for all the Houston teams, so go Astros.
That's right.
There you go.
Awesome. So, yes, Ping, sorry about your ear bulbs. They always get exploded.
I warned them. I warned them in chat. I say, prepare yourselves. And
That's right.
One day we'll all learn. Or one day we'll get that like audio actually lowered.
We'll just take the time to edit it. Yeah.
Somebody, please.
Right, like we go from like quiet, nice elevator music to like to literally the second Tron movie, right? And could you imagine if someone was in bed and like they just had this on like medium volume, their wife is asleep, and then all of a sudden it's like, we need to run away from the bad guys type of music.
Yeah, dude, it is pretty anxiety inducing. It's it gets you ready though. So
that's right.
It'll be fun.
We're Pastors After Dark.
Well, tonight you can see from the title, we have a question that has been asked. All of these questions, we don't just make them up. They're questions that have been asked through an anonymous Google form. You can type !pads in the chat if you would like a link to that to ask questions for future shows. But tonight we're addressing a question that was asked. Can a Christian continue to support Disney? So we have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight and with probably a lot of heated opinions. So feel free to weigh in chat. Just badger Ferris all night with questions and thoughts and everything. And that will be wonderful. In fact, we have, I just looked at it again. GMA's Twitter account put out a poll just a couple of hours ago saying, should a Christian continue to support Disney? So far, there have been 30 votes, and it is a dead even tie, 50 to 50%. So
I haven't voted.
Vote on that. Oh, you haven't voted? Oh, you should take care of that.
Oh,
look at that.
Throw the link up in here. I commented, but I didn't post the link. But I'm hoping all these people come because a lot of people started saying stuff about it. So
yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see some.
It is dead even right now at 30 votes, 50-50.
It's crazy.
So your vote matters. Your vote will change the course of history of GMA polls as we know it.
That's right. So before we get into everything that we're going to be doing tonight, Shadow, could you open us in a word of prayer?
Absolutely. Let's do it, guys. Let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you, Lord, for these two awesome guys. Thank you for their ministries, Lord, not just here in the online space, but in the physical as well. Lord, and after a day, I'm sure, of baby dedications and baptisms and just services and all sorts of things, Lord, that happen that are exciting on Sunday morning and sometimes don't even feel like work because of how exciting and great they are, but yet still take a toll on us. Lord, help us to let this just be a time where we feel renewed, where we rest in your grace, and Lord, your Holy Spirit leads us and guides us. And after this, may these guys get some well-deserved rest and prepare them for the week to come. Lord, I pray that our chats would all be edifying and glorifying to you, regardless of where we stand on this issue, that we could be Christians who want to follow you and be unified in the body of Christ, first and foremost, above all. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Man, that's so true. Guys. What you said in your prayer is like, you can have the best Sunday morning services and everything, and just everything's great. It was a perfect day, and still you walk away exhausted every single Sunday. I don't know what it is about it, but just take something out of you. Okay, so tonight is a big topic, and again, this is one that was asked through our anonymous Google form, and I think it's a really good question. So we're going to look at this topic from many different vantage points. We're going to look at what has even caused this to be a question or a concern. What our response to this and to culture and being reactive or being proactive. We're going to look at those kind of things. We're going to look at a lot of different stuff tonight. And of course, where are we getting this from? It's all got to be based on this foundation of what does Scripture say. So, expect Romans 1 because that's just standard. That's what we always do.
There. Yeah,
it's going to be on a shirt one of these days, and we all need to buy it. But yeah, that will be coming. So before we get into some of the heavier topics, let me ask y'all just this simple question: what is your favorite Disney movie? What is your favorite Disney movie?
That's hard.
All right, hold on. Are we going to now include Star Wars original trilogy, second and third in
Marvel
this?
stuff.
Are we going to include Marvel before Disney? Like,
are we just talking classic?
Here's
the hard thing. Like, yeah, Pixar is under the Disney umbrella now too.
Oh. Makes it so hard. Okay, yeah, Disney is a conglomerate that is like eating the entire entertainment industry now, and everything is Disney. So let's stick to classics before the modern age of everything with Marvel and Star Wars and pre-Pixar, all that, just classic Disney movies. What's your favorite? Shadow.
Oh man, I gotta go first.
You gotta go first.
Oh man,
you're on the top left of the screen.
Man, I kind of want to do most underrated, but I'll do my favorite. I'll do favorite of all time. Probably has to be Aladdin.
Hey,
I just love the soundtrack. So good, man. But there's so many good ones. It's so hard. It's like Aladdin and then like Hercules, and then like underrated is like Emperor's New Groove. All right, there, all with each other.
So good. I think underrated is Treasure Planet though.
Treasure Planet is underrated too. It's a good one.
That's
true. Is that what you're gonna say, Ferris?
So if it's my favorite, it's not Treasure Planet, but I do love Treasure Planet because it's such a sleeper. Like it's such a good movie, and it was at that like messy time that every studio went through when like you had this growth of like computer animation and classic animation. So I don't know. My favorite classic Disney movie. What have I watched the most?
I would love to hear chat's answer too to see where they fall on the same question.
Okay. I actually I know what I'm gonna say. I know what I'm gonna say. And it's not animated. It's I'm gonna say like, and I've watched this probably way too many times. Pirates of the Caribbean. The very first one. Phenomenal movie.
That is a good one.
So good.
That is a good one.
Yeah, nice. That's a good pick. Okay.
And I think it counts because it's Disney. It's true Disney, but it's not like all the conglomerates that they brought in.
Sure.
Yeah. No, that's a good pick.
What were you gonna say, Dustin?
Well, I hate to have to pick the same as one of y'all, so I'll change mine. But my actual answer is also Aladdin. I created a big war, both online but it started with my own family. We got into this big dispute and debate between what is better, Aladdin or The Lion King, and because those are my two favorite like classic animated Disney movies, and Aladdin just barely beats it out. And the reason, this is what gets me the most flack, and so chat, prepare to hate me, but I don't like any of the stuff with Timon and Pumbaa. Like the whole middle section is annoying to me. I love the beginning, like more than anything in probably all of Aladdin. And I love the ending probably more than anything in all of Aladdin. But the middle, it's like a super high and then this valley and then high again. But Aladdin is just like consistently amazing. So I guess I'll go Lion King.
That's why I have like the Trinity, like classic Disney Trinity would be for me Aladdin, Lion King, and Hercules. Because Hercules, there's no part within it that I'm like bored of. Every song is good. Like, yeah, it's just for consistency. I think a Hercules and the messaging of Hercules, I think outbeats Aladdin for me just a bit.
Yeah.
Chat, can we just be honest here? Because there's 3 guys here, and the reason Aladdin was our favorite was because of Princess Jasmine and slave outfit. Like, right, like this is probably before we knew the
Again,
Lord.
did we put the 18 plus tag on?
Yeah, we
need
did
to
not
make
put
sure
that
that's
up.
on, especially on the episodes Ferris is on.
Yeah.
If anyone's
I'm
wondering,
just-
this is an 18 plus show. Put your kids to
I'm
bed.
just-
This is
I'm
Pastors
just
After
being
Dark.
honest, okay? Okay, that was the first time I was like, wait a second. This doesn't seem like a kid's movie anymore.
Yeah, that was a weird part. Robin Williams was great in it. Yeah, back in
Phenomenal.
Genie. So good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So
Okay,
good.
We
I
got
had a-
Danny DeVito as Phil in
That's
Hercules.
right.
Can't beat that.
That's
There's
Phil's
a-
boy, dude. That
there-
still makes me cry every time.
Yeah.
I say it.
There's a question in chat from Fair Storm. It says, should of Aladdin's second wish that rescued him from drowning in the water counted?
No, that was so dumb. It made me so mad.
Exactly.
You're gatekeeping your own questions.
wait a second.
Yeah.
A lot of people
That
in
always
chat are
annoyed me.
saying Aladdin though. A lot of Aladdins I see in chat. A lot of I did see some Lion Kings in here. Fantasia.
Twisted
Fantasia
Shot
was always
says,
weird to me.
or says Moana.
Okay.
Someone said Moana. Yeah, we were doing like pre Pixar, but if we go post Pixar, then that opens the floodgates. One that I don't like post Pixar is I never got into Cars. I feel like I was too old.
Yeah.
Never really liked it. Don't understand why there's 3 of them.
Yeah, that's the bigger question. Why are there 3 of them? First one, okay, I get it, whatever. But
I think the most underrated classic Disney film, which was also their last fully animated film, is Princess and the Frog. Princess and the Frog is a banger of a movie, has amazing songs. Shadow Man, great villain.
There's voodoo in it.
A little Raymond.
Can a Christian watch Princess and the Frog? It has voodoo.
That's going to be the follow-up to this. Thank you. That's my content video for the week after the one I have posted.
There you go.
They can only watch that if they've watched Harry Potter before then.
There you
Got
go.
it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, well, that's enough with the lighter stuff. So, so even just that shows we all have a background with Disney. Like everyone in chat, we're all saying our favorites. We all kind of grew up with it, you know, with the classic stuff, the, you know, Snow White and Pinocchio and, you know, whatever, Peter Pan, all the older stuff. Like we know that, we love that, it's all great. But then a lot of us kind of grew up with Disney. As movies would come out, we'd get to go to the theater and watch it. The first movie I ever saw in theaters, period, was a Disney movie. It was The Little Mermaid. I don't remember it, but that's what my mom told me. I was very little whenever it came out. But apparently that was the first movie I ever saw in the theater. It was a Disney movie. And, you know, we all had the VHS tapes with like the big white plastic clamshell thing, you know, that I would destroy over the years. It's something that is a part of so many of our childhood that now as adults, whenever we maybe have come to faith later in our life or something, and we've been saved, whether we were saved as a child or later in life, a lot of times we have to ask questions like tonight's question, like, can a Christian continue to support Disney? And before we get into like all the details of it, I want to start with why. Why is this even a question? Like, who cares? Like, who cares if you support something or watch something or whatever? Like, have they done something wrong? Have they not done something they should have? And I'm going to be 100% transparent. I don't keep up with the news that much. So I honestly don't know a lot of the answers to the questions I'm about to ask. So I'm hoping that y'all are a little more informed than I am. I know a little bit of it, but what is it that Disney has done in recent past that has caused such a concern, that has caused such pushback from Christians? Why are we even having this conversation? What are some of the big things that Disney as a company has done recently that has caused Christians to ask this question legitimately? Do we need to support them? Ferris, do you want to get us started on that?
Yeah, let's go. I mean, let's start off with kind of where we were and where things are now, right? So Disney was created in obviously Los Angeles by Walt Disney to be able to create a place where a child and a family could suspend all reality and enter fantasy into like real life. And that's why Disney is so phenomenal at producing these not only amazing stories, but also these amazing experiences. And with the death of Walt Disney, the company became like literally a money generator, right? So do what is popular, do what satisfies and draws the child, and then what parents will support and pour money into. And this has been their mode forever. I mean, that's what Snow White was. That's what Cinderella was. That's what Sleeping Beauty was. That's what like Toy Story and all of the great classics like Lion King was something to draw the family and draw the people in. Uh, Come around the late 90s, early 2000s, we had this gigantic push within social issues of sexuality and equality and things like that. So now you have the messaging away from holistic culture would say moralistic ideals and then pushing more political ideologies that alienated parts of their audience and their like just their customer base. So we see a progression not only with Disney but all over the world of being able to monetize things which are popular in the moment. And for a lot of us, which were grown on these holistic, moralistic ideals that Disney propagated, many people feel betrayed and now have rejected it because they're like, you aren't what I used to know. But Disney was always what they've always been, a company who is concerned with getting more. I mean, honestly, more money. That's what capitalism is. The
Right.
What they offer is an experience, and what they're selling uh, is fantasy, right? So they're selling it to whoever will buy it. And if the popular subject is green M&Ms, watch Disney will make a movie about green M&Ms because it's not that they care about morals, it's that they care about money. And for some reason, I don't know why that surprises people.
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
but a lot of us have felt betrayed, and that's a genuine feeling. Like you and chat may have felt like something that you loved has betrayed you, and I can completely see why people feel so passionate on both sides about it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Cause like, so would you say that it's maybe Disney is just seeing what's hot, what's going, what culture's wanting to do, and just kind of capitalizing on it, or as opposed to maybe trying to set it or drive an agenda, but instead just seeing there is an agenda, there's money, I'll jump on that bandwagon. Do you think it's both? Do you think it's more one than the other? Because that may have a part to play in this conversation.
I think it's both. I think it's both, but like think about it in the true sense, right? Obviously, it's popular to bring on people of different sexualities and different gender identities and everything like that. Like that's culturalistically popular. If all of a sudden it shifted, Disney would do what it would take to be able to stay relevant and also very profitable. So they would shift along
Mm.
with it, right? So it's more of gaining money out of an opportunity than I think an agenda, because the agenda of any business that cares only about its profit line is to do whatever makes the most money,
Mm. Yeah.
right? So like can like if we're honest, like if we were talking in a worldly sense, like is Disney like are they even a good ally? Like no.
Mm.
No, they get raked over the coals for not being a good ally. Then they get raked over the coals for not being family friendly. They're literally trying to walk the line of what can we do to be able to make the most people okay with the gray so that we can be able to drain money from them, charge more for Genie Pass, charge more for Disney Plus so we can gain the almighty dollar. What they worship above everything is not an ideology, it is money.
Yeah.
Right.
and they're after it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there may be a verse that has something to do with, you know, the love of
Maybe.
money, the root of all kinds of evils.
Wait
That
a
might be
second.
scripture. I don't know.
I think
I
that's
have
fortune
no idea.
cookie.
A fortune cookie. Yeah, maybe. Okay. Yeah. No, those are great thoughts. Shadow, what do you think about this kind of thing? What has Disney done? What are they doing to elicit this kind of response? And you know, bearing in mind everything that Ferris is saying, like you know, a lot of people feeling betrayed. It's not the Disney that I grew up with, and
Right. And
how
I
could
think
you do this to me?
that's a big part of this is the realization that, you know, from a small animation studios near Anaheim, you know, that snowballed into this family friendly trusted brand that Disney became and
Hmm.
became such a critical part of, I'd say, like just the American
Mm,
experience of childhood, right? Like you grew up, like you said, you went to see The Little Mermaid in 1989. I looked up what year it came out. That was the year it had its theatrical run, 1989. So
Hmm.
it's been around for quite some time. And with heavy hitters, like we said, you had Little Mermaid, you had Aladdin, you had Lion King, you had, you know, all of those, Sleeping Beauty, all of these classic Disney movies we say now in animation, created this trusted brand that parents
Hmm.
are like, I can take my kids to this and they will be inspired and encouraged, and there's good morals, all this stuff, right? Even though Disney, again, never promised a Christian value to this, it just
Hmm.
happened to align at that point
yeah.
with what they were making. Well,
Right.
now you remove yourself 30 years, 40 years almost for some of these older movies, and the world's a very different place. And Disney is still this big brand that it's always been. But now, like Ferris was saying, is they're just kind of following where the money's going, and they're just doing what they believe is gonna sell the most stuff. And things like diversity is always a huge word, right? And we see this
Right.
in a number of different ways, and it's unfortunate because I think now Christian families are finding that tension of like, oh, I
Hmm.
want to show my kids this nostalgic piece of entertainment that I grew up with, my favorite classic Disney movie. You know, I want to take them to Disney World because for all of us growing up, Disney World was like the epitome of a vacation spot for young kids, right? And now you see what Disney is putting out in terms of things that are based more around you know, what they believe is going to sell. So like I said, diversity, you know, certain messaging. And then you have people coming into those positions of leadership, whether that's in writing in the writing room, whether that's in the acting or directing, and they feel like they get to have this sense to better market their shows or their things around these certain subject matters to be able to better promote their stuff. You know, check out this all girl show that we're doing, or this women empowerment show that we're doing, or you know, whatever it may be. Fill in the blank with whatever the messaging is, and they're doing it not because I think deep down that they care about all these things, but truly just here's a way I can make more money. Here's a way Disney can make more money is if we market it as such. And it's causing friction for some to feel that. But this isn't something that's completely like brand new. I mean, Disney has always had
Yeah.
this like weird subliminal messaging stuff back in
Hmm.
19, I think it was 1968. The Southern Baptist Convention actually had like a 8-year long boycott from Disney that they kind of like put out that they were trying to push this whole movement to have anyone in the Southern Baptist Convention just like reject Disney completely because of
Hmm.
things like subliminal messages. You know, I think one of the most famous ones is like the Little Mermaid having a
Oh yeah.
penis in the pillar on some of the
Right.
original DVDs. There
Yeah, yeah.
is a naked woman in the what was that one? The one with the two mice. Um,
Rescuers Down
The
Under.
Rescuers.
I think it was in that one. Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
flying through in a scene, and if you pause it at the right time, you see there's like a naked lady in the window.
No.
You have that. You have things like in Lion King, Simba when he's feeling defeated, he sits on a rock and he kicks up the dust, and you could, you know, spell out sex, right? There's and it's like, how deep do you really go? Some of these are kind of seemingly
Right.
stretching some of
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but there's been things like this over and over again throughout the history, and that was back then in the 90s.
Yeah.
But really nowadays I think a big part of it is just the messaging, is what's being shown, what's being said on these shows. that really for Christians, you're like, man, this does not feel well. Like this doesn't feel like I'm parenting or stewarding my job with my kids well by letting them see new Disney stuff. So it creates that inconsistency of like, I want them to watch old stuff. That's good. But I don't want them watching this new stuff. And I don't want them to see Disney as this trusted brand. So I think that's where this tension comes up and where people have concerns and are split on, as Christians, should you keep watching and supporting Disney?
Right. Yeah.
I think
for sure.
I think for me it's confusing to me why these questions of should I support Disney have just recently come up within the last decade. Like that's probably the most confusing thing to me. Like if I just Google real quick Disney movies that haven't aged well, okay? Let's just run through a quick list, right? So we have and some of these are going to be hot button issues in like today's culture, and some of them are going to be a little bit more like on the nose. Hey, yeah, we probably should have been not okay with that. But like hot button issues, right? Snow White, Sleeping Beauty,
right?
Non-consensual physical contact. Okay, right?
Oh yeah.
Boom. Right? Dumbo. The Black Crows are literally stereotypical black people. Like that's the correlation that they're making with it, right? Dumbo, a child gets drunk, right? Right, hold on, chat, you ready? Song of the South.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like there's child trafficking in Pinocchio.
Yeah.
There's the terrible depiction of Native Americans in Peter Pan. There's terrible depictions of people from Asia in Fantasia, which I love Fantasia, and like the Aristocats. Right? You got King Louis, who is a monkey, and if there isn't more of a direct like connection of like, well, this is what we think people are. I mean, it's all over. Like, how come these things we can see? Yeah, that's probably not the best thing, but how come all of a sudden now we got issues?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I just.
Yeah.
So
in other words, we should have right. We should have always had issues with certain things. Like some of those, like, okay, so I go back to like Pinocchio, for example. So one of the main morals or teaching moments in that is where I don't remember the guy's name, but whenever they're rounding up all the bad kids to take to Pleasure Island, and he says something like, give a bad boy enough rope and eventually he'll make a jackass out of himself. And then they literally do. And I'm using the language they use. It's the 40s, right. A little different. But yeah, there's no family friendly filter on this show. Remember,
we have the 18 plus tag on. No one can get mad.
Yeah. Also the fact that they call it Pleasure Island. Okay.
Yeah. Right. But like that's and then they go to show that they literally transform into donkeys and then they sell them and all that kind of stuff. And so it shows the point. It gets it across. Okay, that's a good lesson. I get that. But then in the same lesson or the same movie, you also get a lesson that should like raise concern as a Christian, which is Jiminy Cricket's whole thing, when you wish upon a star, like in other words, just whatever I want, I can desire. Just follow your heart, like these kind of things that are like, okay, this is not really in line with the Christian message. So I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, should we always have had issues with certain teachings and things in Disney movies? And if we're going to be consistent, yeah, sure. But I think the issue is like more, or nowadays it's so much more pronounced. It's like, it's hard to find the good message, and even the good message isn't always a great message.
Right. Like, so recently me and my wife watched, I think it was called Red Panda. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Turning Red.
Returning Red, that's what it was.
Yeah.
In that one, I was just like, again, take out like all the other salacious things that have made headlines. I'm like, just looking at the messaging here, like, what was it to, just be disobedient to your parents and like they'll come around to your own desires and wishes, like you
Yeah.
should always get what you want. I'm like, I would never want my daughter, like she's 9 months old, but I would never want her watching this movie because I don't think it has a good message to it. Like,
Yeah.
I was waiting for it to come around or for her to be like, you know what, my parents were right on this thing or whatever. It didn't happen. Like the movie just, it all works out for her in the end.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
does, but
Very.
I can even see that movie and see it's different, right? So like we literally have a parent who tries to not just protect her daughter, but like keep her disconnected from anything in the world, which has caused rebellion. And then the teenager is like honestly disrespectfully rebellious. But then it is also like this is where we get into like world things, right? Like accept who you are because all of the daughter's ancestors rejected who they really were. So like your identity is what you believe in. So there's all these sub things
Mm.
that you could read into it,
Right.
right? But like even in that, we could like how you depict and communicate a message that Turning Red communicates is dependent upon the parent and their follow-up conversations. Like I don't even watch I don't watch Frozen with
Yeah.
my 3-year-old without asking her, "What do you think it means? Why are they doing this?"
Right.
Like there's always follow-up questions
Yeah.
of
And I
anything
think
they
that's
consume.
when we get to question 3 that Deucin has of like the response. Yeah. I think
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
definitely going to be part of like,
Right.
spoiler, what we're going to say with any of these.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, that was just like on one thing. I think I remember I was babysitting one of my friend's kids. He's 2 years old, loves running around. I'd take him to the park, but then it started raining. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put on a show for him while I make him his like lunch dinner. And I put on like I didn't know what like shows were on Disney Plus, but I'm like I'll find something. And I don't know if you guys ever saw Big Hero 6,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
Pixar one that came out a little bit ago. So I guess Baymax has a spin-off like mini series on Disney Plus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Baymax goes and he goes around I forget the name of the town, but he goes around the San Francisco, Tokyo town, whatever it's called, and he basically helps people in need while Max or whatever his name was is in school. So Baymax, the first like episode or two were cute. He just goes and helps the lady downstairs run the coffee shop. You know, she hurt her knee, whatever. In episode 3, Baymax goes to help this guy who has hives, and he gets them at first, I think, because he's allergic to food or something, but then it's actually from when he gets anxious or stressed out. And the whole episode is basically about him running his business, but then also working over his anxiety to ask out this other guy. So I was
Mm.
like, okay,
Mm.
his parents probably wouldn't want me to like let him watch this one. Maybe let's just skip and go to the next one. So then I skipped that one, you know, once it kind of gets going in that direction. And the fourth episode at this point is all about Baymax sneaking into elementary school to help a girl who's in the bathroom having her first period. And
Hmm.
it shows Baymax going to the store. And at first, I was like, okay, maybe it's not going to like focus on that. But then Baymax tries to help by going and getting her tampons. And so Baymax is in the tampon aisle. This is aimed for children, child
Yeah.
show. And
Uh-huh.
Baymax is in this aisle filled with all of these different sanitary wipes, but he doesn't know what to pick. And so he asks the first woman he sees walk by, hey, which one do you recommend or do you suggest? And before that lady can answer, a male who's dressed as a girl has like the transgender flag on with a jacket and, you know, rainbow pin, everything you think of, says, well, here's what I love using. And then another girl comes up and says, actually, well, here's what my girlfriend's favorite one is. So it's just like this whole bombard. And at that point I was like, okay, we're turning this off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put on like Finding Nemo for you. Like I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure there's nothing too bad in that. But that was just like in the spam of like 2 to 3 minutes of that episode. And then
Mm.
I was just like, okay, yeah, we're done. Like I can't show them anything new Disney because that's the type of messaging that just like it's not even subliminal. It's just like in your face, kind of just like there
Yeah, yeah.
in these
Right.
things.
Man. Wow. So that, I mean, that shows the prevalence of this. That shows why this is a question, why this is a concern. Yeah, that's a very valid concern. Okay, we have a whole lot more to get to, but
Yeah.
before we keep going, have there been questions so far, Ferris? Remember, if y'all have questions you want to add to the conversation, and make sure you get in on that at Ferris Storm in chat so he sees that and he can bring those up. But Ferris, have we had any questions so far?
Quite literally, no one has tagged me, and just honestly, I'm offended. Right? Like,
As you should be.
right? Like,
Yeah.
A lot of conversation, but nobody wants to have it with
offended.
Ferris.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Like it's interesting. Like we are having a ton of conversation where we're talking about like where on the Timmy puts Timmy put this. He goes, "Are there alternatives to Disney that Christians should check out? It's kind of hard to find something that's not Hollywood related. Have you all found any type of consistent content production that is an alternative to these large Hollywood networks that are producing stuff that you want to consume?"
It's hard because it's like on the same level, like obviously they're going to be smaller, so their production's not going to be anywhere near as good. This was kind of like a in between. They weren't their own production. They were kind of their own production, but not really. They didn't do new shows, but I think it was called Bluefish. I don't even know if they're around anymore. But have you guys ever seen this? Basically, they would take
Yeah.
they would take like popular movies or shows like the Batman, right? Like the Dark Knight or whatever, and they would just chop out. they basically just like throw it in Premiere Pro and then like chop out anything that was even remotely risque for like any Christian family who wants to watch it. So I remember there's like a scene in The Dark Knight where Bruce walks out. He like falls and lands in a hot tub with two girls, and then he like walks out with them on his shoulders, fully dressed. They were like, and they cut that out. I remember specifically on that one. That was one thing, but I don't even know if they do that anymore. I'm gonna look it up while you guys.
I don't know.
Your
Yeah, I mean,
suggestions or
there's like those things like
Mhm.
the Angel Vid, the Pure Flix kind of things, for like stuff that's already created, but just want a more like censored version of it. But like current production type stuff, honestly, not really. At least not that I'm aware of, unless you're looking for like specifically like Bible based stuff. Then there's
Yeah.
like super books and things like that. But if you're just wanting just general entertainment for kids that's not Cocomelon, that's going to drive you insane, it's
Hey, I'm behind Bluey about 97% of those episodes. Those things are amazing.
Those things are solid. They keep me engaged. when I watch it with my daughter.
So there are two things. Ping said in chat. Just remember, if companies thought it would make them more money, they would promote Nazism. They say and do anything for money. That's a publicly traded company. Disney has a legal obligation to do its best for the company. It's literally a legal obligation. Yeah, it is, but again, it's not even that they're worried about are they following the law. It's, will this give me another dollar? Will somebody spend more money with me?
Right.
Right. And then, but Albatron says, or Al Britton, not Albatron, Al Britton says, it seems like Disney is forcing the issue, though. I think the better question is, why do children's shows have sexual orientation? Straight or gay, why would it be there? When I was a kid, I didn't care about that. I cared about the plot, solving the mystery, etc.
I still care about those things.
Yeah.
I
mean, and I mean, even when like you look at what Shadow was just talking about with Baymax, like the point of the story, here's where it's getting a little shady, right? Like the point of the story in Baymax is not all the sexual orientations that were presented in the searching for the tampons or the pads. Because like heck yeah, like right, like kids gotta learn that. They like take the mystification out of that, take the nervousness, take the shame out of that. It's a natural thing, and like Shadow's gonna have to like have a conversation with his daughter. I'm gonna have a conversation with mine. Deucen's gonna have conversations with his about that, and we're gonna talk about it and honor it and celebrate it. And it's a scary thing, and there's a lot of stuff with it. Like that's a great thing to kind of demystify and dehumiliate that for
the
a
heart
young
behind
lady.
it's like a good. I can understand it.
But then all of a sudden we get to like these subtle things that are put in there, not for the purpose of plot, but for the satisfaction of other people with an agenda.
Right.
Right. And I 100% understand from anybody who has an issue with Disney that when you are inserting things into a story that has no purpose in the continuation of the story, but just to satisfy naysayers or the loudest voices, then yeah, that's frustrating. And
Yeah.
then, like, do what you did, just right, you turned it off. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. Right. Which is why, like, I've got 4 kids myself, and like with newer stuff like that, if it's something on Netflix or whatever, I have to sit and watch several episodes with them just to make sure that's going to be okay. So generally, we just watch the older stuff that I know is okay.
Right. And like I said, it's
Um,
smart because like for Baymax, the first 2 episodes, they're only like 10 minutes long. That's why I let him watch
Yeah.
multiple.
Yeah.
Like they were fine. And then I was like, cool. Like I sat and watched the first 2 with him. I sat for 20 minutes. It kept his attention. I was like, oh, this is cute. Like Baymax is just going around helping people. And then episode 3, halfway through it, it's like introducing that, like the same-sex attraction stuff, right? And then I was like, okay, maybe it's just that one, like I get it. Like they're super affirming. That's what they're going to put in their show. They're trying to demystify that aspect of just you could be sexually attracted to the same people. There's nothing wrong or weird with that, right? Like, so I get the heart behind that too. In some ways, I'm not saying it's right or biblical, but I'm just saying I get the motivation and the
Yeah,
heart.
yeah.
But then it goes into that 4th episode, and I'm like, man, this is just too much. Like, even just categorizing it as G-rated for all. I'm like, is this something that like a little boy, who isn't gonna ever have to experience that? Like, is this something he should be learning, at 2, 3 years old, or
right.
is this something that could be a little bit more appropriate for maybe like a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old who's about to enter into that phase and maybe is having
Mm.
those conversations?
Right.
Why force those types of conversations on younger viewers when there's not really a need for that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Well, then let's keep moving forward because, like I said, we got a lot of
so
stuff
much.
to talk. I know, and we're still like only,
We're on question 2, barely.
yeah. We'll
Yeah.
we'll jump to question 2. Let's do that. Okay. So, this is obviously a big deal. It's something that we need to talk about, that we need to know where we stand on. But is this a primary issue? Is this something worth dividing over? Is this something? Is this a primary gospel thing, or is this something that Christians can disagree on? That we can maybe not see eye to eye, but hear each other out, have good, honest conversations, listen without just jumping down the other person's throat. Is this something that we can have a conversation about without dividing? Is this a primary issue? How does Christian liberty fit into all this? I think I started with you last time, Ferris. So Shadow, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, give
Yeah,
him a hard
right.
question.
Yeah, start me with the hard one.
Yeah.
Issues of Christian liberty. Is this a primary issue or secondary issue? I would say that it is a secondary issue that can affect your primary views of issues in general. And here's what I mean by that. Obviously, all scripture is pretty clear in wisdom when it talks about our influence by the things that are in proximity to us. In a lot of ways, scripture speaks to the friends that we have around us, and the entertainment that we have with them will engage and influence who we are and who we become. And in the same way, I view media and TV as our culture now. Media has essentially become a secondary friend. The reason why we have 40 people hanging out in stream right now watching this is become, on some level, they want to be entertained by the question that we have, right? On some level, it's filling their time, that they would be spending back in Jesus' time, right? You would be spending this time with other people if you didn't want to be alone. Now we have things like Twitch, YouTube, where you can watch, you can hear, and you can feel a personal connection to all 3 of us here, even if we've never met you. We don't even know what your real names are. There's this real authentic connection that you feel. And the same is true with entertainment. When we come back to Aladdin or we come back to Hercules, we are influenced by these things. And so can we watch Disney? I think is a secondary issue. But it's when we spend a lot of time with it and we allow it to affect our views on things, especially if it becomes the primary thing. Romans 1 here. We're coming back to
Oh
we
gosh,
trade
it is.
in the presence of God, the glory of God for mortal man and images resembling man. And so we trade in the rightful place of God. Go back and read Romans 1 tonight if this is your question and this is what you want to talk about, right? We trade that in for God. And when we do, our hearts are darkened and our minds are made foolish. And so we begin to go, you know what? Like, does this actually really matter? Like, and trust me, Disney, Pixar, they do a phenomenal job. They are amazing narrative storytellers. They are going to do a phenomenal job telling you a story, giving you a message, and they'll present it in a way that will kind of put you at ease if you're not like actually paying attention and on guard.
Yeah.
And if you're investing in it, you're gonna be like, you know what? Like, is that really so bad? Like, is this really that bad? Like, I can take that issue, that primary issue, and that I hold with a closed fist because I believe this is what Scripture says about it, and I can maybe like peek at it a little bit more, just be a little bit more open to it. You know, maybe I do need to be more affirming. Maybe I do need to just be more accepting and loving, and maybe I just have to, you know, and slowly but surely, if that is taking the place of God, the things that are primary begin to become less and less primary in your mind. It's like, no, I guess that's a secondary issue. And I think it begins to influence us in that way if we're not careful, if we're not on watch, right? And that goes with anything, not just Disney. I'm not hating on Disney alone. I'm just saying anything. We said this about anime. We've said this about music, right? And now we're saying this about Disney. But I want to give you guys a chance to talk and share some things too. So Ferris, what did you want to say?
I just like being dissonant. Why Disney? Why are we picking on Disney? What makes them worse than any other corporation? Like, what is your limit, your line of how much worldliness a company connects themselves to before you decide to be like, not for me, right? Like, so like,
Right.
is it Disney because they're creating kids content that adults consume, and then they're propagating these ideologies that you disagree with? Is it just because it's kids content, or is it because of the content that they're trying to communicate? Like, I understand if it's kids content, like then you're not going to let your kids watch it. But if it's because the content that they're communicating and the ideology that they're trying to propagate, like then wouldn't every single worldly company that you participate in within the 24 hours also reach that exact same level, right? So then you have to disconnect from everything, right? So,
Right.
like, think about it's not just like media. Think of the cars you drive. Think about the clothes you wear.
Right.
Think about think about the people that you buy your utilities from and where they're
Mm-hmm.
donating money to. Like,
Right.
right? Like, how much and like what is your line? Like, that's my question. So there's a necessity of Christian liberty here to go like, hey, we got to survive, we got to live, we got to do some things. And there's also like, hey, but I don't want to propagate this message that I completely disagree with. And I think that it takes personal conviction and wisdom.
Absolutely.
I like what you said, that this is a secondary issue that can be connected to primary issues. Uh, but I like my question is like, where's your line? And like, why is it okay that you do some things but not others, that you condemn one thing but you don't condemn another?
Right.
So like there's got to be some maturity in that. There's got to be some purpose in that. And like for me personally, like I love and live in like John 17, right? Right? To be in the world but not of the world. And but not of the world doesn't mean that I don't like I'm not participating in which where God has placed me. It means that like because I believe in Christ, I am no longer of this world. I'm set apart.
Right.
I'm different.
Right.
Right? Like that's what it's about. Like, and because we're not of the world, we are sent to the world. To be sent to the world, you have to be in the world. To be in the world, you got to get your hands dirty, your feet dirty, and you got to sit and eat with sinners
Right.
and talk
Exactly.
about what sinners eat and talk about.
Yeah, exactly. How are you going to
Walk it.
connect? What common ground are
Yeah.
you going to have with non-believers? You know, if you
Yeah.
really want to go and proclaim the gospel to all people, and again, I'm not saying this as an excuse for people to use it as an idol to just only spend your whole day consuming Disney stuff or consuming whatever it may be, but you have to live in this world. Like people who tweet that, like I'm not of this world. You're tweeting it from one of two types of phones. Three, let's throw a third category: an iPhone, an Android, or a
Yeah.
Google phone. Like, and all three of those companies have values that I guarantee and promise you do not align with what the Bible teaches, what it has. But yet we all own phones. You are watching this on a device somewhere from a company that probably just celebrated what was it, opening up day week, whatever it was, that's going to celebrate Pride Month, that's going to change their icons on Twitter and everywhere else to the fill in the blank made up holiday of like Pride Month, whatever it may be. They'll do all that and you will still continue to buy that stuff. So have like that consistency, like you said, Ferris, like where is that line?
Right.
Yeah, like and here's the thing. I by no means want anyone to think that I am condemning anyone who decides to pull back from anything. Like the beautiful part about the body is that we are all created for different parts of God's kingdom work. And some he calls to be like, hey, disconnect from all that. That's not for you.
Mhm.
Right. And then for others, he's gonna send them into the brothels and into the dens of thieves and then to sit and eat and drink with sinners. Because he's created them in a way to be able to reach them for the glory of himself. Like don't get me wrong, I'm not condemning anyone who's like Disney is terrible and I'm never gonna watch it. If that's you, like all about it, that's what God's called you to do, go do it. But then my follow-up question is like, why just Disney and why not everything else? Like that's more of a philosophical question than a condemnation question. Like I want to know why and where lines are drawn.
I think for me, a big part of answering that comes back to like what I was saying. Like the reason why I buy an iPhone isn't because I align with them on my on values in terms of like their beliefs as a corporation, right? Or anything like that. I buy it because of the functionality of the phone. I buy it because it's a helpful device that lets me do what I need to do in my day-to-day life. I buy Nike shoes not because they do a great job in promoting Satan blood-filled shoes or whatever it was when Lil Nas did that collab with them, right? Like clearly something that's unbiblical and like meant to be kind of that awe and shock factor to get people talking.
Yeah.
I buy their shoes when I do because they're comfortable. I buy them for that functionality. This kind of goes back to the whole, do you shop at Walmart and Target or do you boycott those things as well? And so when it comes to Disney, I think you have to look at an individual thing that you're going to invest your money in based on the functionality that it's going to serve. Part of Disney is that it's entertainment to fill your time, to take you to a fantasy world, right? But along with that, it's the messaging of that entertainment that every movie is going to have, regardless of the company, regardless of their beliefs. Every good movie or show is going to have some type of messaging to it that you're going to be influenced by. So I think that's where like that tension lies. For some people, they're like, in their mind and in their conscience, I'm just watching this for the entertainment. I understand that they're not going to align biblically with me, and that's okay. And I'm just watching it because I'm entertained. I want to see what they do at Black Panther 2. I want to know how the Pixar universe theory is going to continue to expand, whatever it may be. For other people, the conviction is, hey, I can't watch this because I know I will be influenced by it. So I am going to reject this completely. But that was my 2 cents. Deucen, what do you think? Sorry.
No, those are all great thoughts. And then what you're saying also, like, I don't want to open a whole other can of worms, but it's like there's also two sides of that in that, like, okay, am I just doing it for me? Like, I don't want to watch it because I don't want me and my family to be influenced in a negative way by these messages or whatever. There's that view. And then there's also the view, like, if I'm purchasing tickets to these movies, if I'm going to Disney World and riding the attractions, if I'm buying this entertainment and these pleasures and whatever, then my money is going to fund things that I disagree with. And am I then part of the problem? Am I, keeping that whole system going? Do I have blood on my hands, so to speak, and so I think that there's a lot of things that Christians, we need to seriously think through and consider and all of that. But on this idea and subject of Christian liberty, like Ferris is saying, like, okay, so you're just going to go live in a cave, and for the rest of your life and like not associate with any sort of product or brand or anything, because none of them are going to align with a solid biblical worldview. They're all, like we said at the very beginning, they're in it for the money. They're going to, appease their shareholders.
Intensely argue that is not what you're supposed to do.
Well, yeah, I would agree. I would agree. So I posted in chat, and chapter verse doesn't like me, but it likes all Britain apparently. Just Romans 14, 3-4, on that whole subject where it says, "Let not the one who eats despise the one who abstains." Talking about like right before. Well, I'll just read all of it, I guess. Verse 1 and 2. "As for the one who is weak in faith, welcome him, but not to quarrel over opinions. One person believes he may eat anything. One person believes he may watch Disney movies, while the weak person eats only vegetables, while the weak person says, no, I'm only going to watch Cocomelon because I hate life. Let not the one who eats or who watches the movie despise the one who doesn't, and let not the one who doesn't pass judgment on the one who does, for God has welcomed him. Who are you to pass judgment on the servant of another? It is before his own master that he stands or falls." So like, are we binding other people's conscience by saying you can't do this because XYZ, or are we trying to just open people's eyes to the reality of it? So like, that's why we need to have these conversations with grace and love and kindness, and be slow to speak, quick to listen, because there's obviously, we've been talking about, there's a valid argument for not supporting, but
right,
like, I don't want to bind someone's conscience over that. So there's a lot to consider here. And this doesn't just apply to Disney movies. This applies to Disney. This applies to everything. Yeah, exactly.
And I think even the logic of, go ahead, Ferris.
Well, I was gonna say, I think there's some legitimacy though in the argument of responsibility of the parents though. So like,
I think that's where it would mostly fall.
Yeah, what are we exposing our children to, and what are we preparing them for, right? So discipleship is the process of becoming, of pointing our hearts and souls more towards Jesus to become more like him. It's the active process of sanctification. That's what discipleship is, right? So it, like, there's a disservice in discipleship to not let people know what the world is like. Like, this is the war that you're stepping into. An unprepared soldier is doomed for defeat, right? Like, that's the reality, right? But you also don't put you don't put an unprepared soldier just in the battlefield with nothing to prepare them. You don't put them in dangerous situations. So you prepare them. Same thing with like children. Like, I am constantly consuming the content that my kids are consuming so that one, I can field questions, two, that I'm prepared, three, that I can protect them. Like, my son is 6 years old. He has friends who are 6 years old, 7 years old. He's in first grade. And he's asking me, like, Dad, why can't I play like Modern Warfare? Why can't I play Poppy's Playhouse? Like, why can't I play some of these games? Why can't I watch some of these things? And like, what I tell him is, I go, son, in the future, I'll probably let you play those things, but you're not ready yet. And he goes, why am I not ready yet? I was like, it's your dad's job to protect you from things that could hurt you. And there's things that can hurt you that don't hurt you just physically. They can hurt you inside your brain and how you think. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, it can change the way you think about things that maybe you're not prepared to understand yet. Right. So it's not that I'm disregarding his inquisitiveness. I'm letting him know that I am building foundations. I'm building him up to be able to be prepared to understand things. So for example, we have been talking to him over the past couple months about what a good friend is or what a bad friend is, because he has a couple kids that influence him in negative ways. And we were like, hey, that's not what a good friend is. Bad friends are always selfish and they're worried about themselves, and it's more concerned for them, for others. Good friends care about you emotionally, intellectually, they want to share. And an incident happened this past week where my son came home from school. He goes, Dad, I now understand what you mean when you say someone is a bad friend. This person in my life is a bad friend. And I go, well, what do you want to do about that? And he goes, I think I need to take a break from playing with him for a little while because I don't want that type of friend. Right? Like, that was a year and a half of preparing him and having conversations. But I let him be able to maintain a relationship with this person that wasn't necessarily a good friend, in hopes and in continued conversations that he would come to realize what a bad friend is. Like, that's the responsibility of a parent, is to prepare them, to teach them, and continually question them about what they're interacting with. Like nothing is more disconcerting than my son coming home and asking, "Papa, what does sussy mean?" Like that's
Mm.
sussy. First of all, where did you hear that? Right?
Yeah.
Like, second of all, like little things like he's coming home one day and he's like, "I freaking hate this. That's the most freaking stupid thing in the world." I'm like,
Mm.
"Son, what does freaking mean?" He's like, "I don't really know." I was like, "Well, let's talk about it." So we talked about language. I didn't tell him what the actual word meant or what it's being substituted for, but we talked about like what intelligent people use, what non-intelligent people use as language, why language is important, and why it's really important about what language we use of how people view us and how God views like our language is an overflow of the heart. So these are all little things that I am constantly in works of discipleship processes with that we're building up on so that he can have a worldview that honors God above anything else so that when I'm not there, he can look something that the world is trying to present him and go, that's righteous or that's not righteous. But I'm gonna love
Yeah.
people and point them to righteousness. Like that's our job, guys.
Yeah. That's good
Yeah.
parenting. That's good.
Right?
I know
You
when you can
can't
tell him when
prepare
he's ready for
soldiers
Call
for
of
it.
Duty. You
Right.
let him play in Nuketown just against you, and when he can beat you at classic Nuketown in Call of
There it
Duty,
is.
then you
Yeah.
can go. Then you're ready, son. Now you can have the keys to the kingdom.
That's right.
In Call of Duty.
Right. Like I'm like right with all this new Modern Warfare 2 come out, I should just let my 6-year-old listen to a Modern Warfare 2 lobby. It's gonna
Right.
be the best. And
Yeah.
and still like nobody really gets it. It's still not gonna be as bad as when we were kids.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh
Those
my
things
goodness.
were terrible.
Yeah. No, that's all good.
Yeah.
Okay. Have we had any other questions in chat before we go to our final section?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually had quite a few. Let me come up here real quick. Uh,
Well, Ferris finds one. I will just tell you guys that the poll is still going strong. If you guys haven't voted, the poll is currently sitting at. I'm gonna refresh it one more time here. But it's no longer split. It is 52% says 52.6% says yes, Christians should or can continue to support Disney. And 47.4% said no. So if you guys haven't voted, go follow, vote. Make sure you're following GMA ministry on there. Because right now a lot of people are saying yes, a Christian can and should keep supporting Disney. But did you find one, Deucin? Or Ferris? I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, there's quite a few. There's uh Zafir Black says, so let's say that your child goes to a friend's house, a friend's home, and sees something via Disney, has questions about adult themed stuff. How do you handle this? So right, like the most terrifying part about being a parent is understanding that there are days and times and hours where you're just not the main influence anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
how are you all handling stuff when your kids are coming back with these questions that maybe you hadn't even thought of yet? Like I had never thought that my 6-year-old son would understand what the word sussy means.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
I had to be like head on a swivel, ready to go. But
Yeah.
like how are you doing this? Like how are you preparing yourself for the inevitable like exposing of your children to things in this world that maybe you haven't prepped them for?
Yeah. The best things, like the most practical things I can say, other than just be ready for anything, have your head on a swivel. The most like practical, proactive thing I can say is what my wife and I have been trying to do is just to constantly facilitate open, honest conversation. Like ask every day, how was your day? How was lunch? Who'd you play with at recess? What'd y'all talk about? Like, I want to know. I'm not just asking a question just
Mm-hmm.
to talk to you. I want to know. Please tell me. And so my kids, they're still pretty young, but I mean, our oldest, she's in 6th grade now. She's 11, and she's starting to deal with more things and bullies and attitudes and peer pressures and things. And so those conversations that we've had, building that foundation of honest, open conversation is starting to come into play. It's starting to show that, okay, that time spent was worth it because she does feel open and safe to talk to us about anything. I've tried to drill that into her brain, and I try to do that with all 4 of our kids. You can talk to us about anything. How was your day? Tell me about it. And so those conversations, I may not be ready for the specific situations, and I'm probably not going to be because the world is going insane. But like I'm ready to have conversations. I just don't know
Right.
what they're going to be about yet. And then in the
Yeah.
moment, you don't just freak out or whatever. You take it in
Mm.
stride and let's talk about that. And do you know what that means? Like you're saying, it was a perfect example, Ferris. Like, well, let's talk about that. Like, do you know what this means? And most of the time the kid's going to be like, no, I have no idea. So, well, let me explain in a way they can understand that's going to be good and build them up and edifying. And because we're teaching them, we're training them, we're raising them. We are a big part of them establishing their compass, their inner voice, all these kind of things. So like, so much of this conversation comes down to us as parents doing what we're called to do. It being real parents instead of just letting the Disney machine raise our children. We are raising our children. We're not letting the school or an agenda or something like, yes, those things are out there. We need to be aware of them. We need to be proactive, but our kids are going to grow up in this world. We, instead of sheltering them from everything and making them go live in the cave, instead, we prepare them, we train them while at the same time guarding them and protecting them as much as we can. We have to train them for the day when we're not there anymore and we can't protect them. We can't walk every step with them. And I hate that. I hate that I can't go to 6th grade with my daughter and, make that bully feel like an idiot in front of all his friends, because I'd love to do that. But I can't.
Houston, if you
I
need,
can't.
I know a guy. He could send a strong message if need be.
Yeah. But yeah,
and
that's
like,
it.
like,
We have to
like
parent.
no shade on anyone like Ike Shudo, who's chosen like an honest, amazing call to homeschool your kids. Like, shout out to any homeschool parents out there. If I could financially survive and do that, man, I think we might do that. But also, like for us, like one of the reasons that our kids are in school and that they're exposed the way they are, is because God put it, like, quite literally, God clearly put it on our heart before we ever had children that our family would be a missional family, right? So like my children like that, but I am paramount on top of those conversations, Deuce, like constantly with my son, constantly with my daughter, like on top of them, always digging in, always asking like questions of reflection, like, why do you do this? Why do they say that? Why do you think they do this? Why do you think they said that? Constantly. But God called my wife and I and like our family to have missional in the world, in the dirt, around people who don't believe in Jesus type of relationships. So like my son, who is 6, and I'm gonna confidently say this, like he doesn't know Jesus as Lord and Savior yet. But he is pursuing God. He says he believes in God. Right now we're having like some really interesting conversations of like what it means to be sinful and like him having sin and acknowledging that, and like it's weird how much like a kid can understand like that we are like our nature is sinful. Like it's wild. That's a whole other show. But in that we have a kid who understands the necessity of pursuing Christ and like how Christ guides us to righteous choices. So here's this kid who's not yet a believer, but is learning it and getting it. And now he is like, Dad, I want my friends to understand like why Jesus is so important to me. So he's like, can I get all these Bibles and take them to kids? And I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. So he's starting to have these missional ideas like quite naturally, and then I get to facilitate and encourage him. And he wouldn't have those things if he didn't realize that his friends were lost and didn't know Jesus. So he can be able to quantify like some places in their life where they're falling short, where they're not following the Lord, and they're like, man, like his little 6-year-old brain is like, man, what would change their life and make them better? Jesus. So he's starting to chase that. And he would have never had those opportunities if he weren't in like a public school with kids that teach them the word sus or frickin' or y'all. Can't even explain it. I was not prepared to have a 6-year-old.
Oh,
But
man.
but that stuff is cool. So like I'm as weird as it says, I'm willing to fight those battles and to get in the dirt with my son so that
Yeah.
like in his heart he can be prepared, ready to go and love on the people that he's beside.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good.
It's encouraging. Well, if you guys could pray for me, because my daughter doesn't really listen to me or talk to me much at all. And when she does, I don't really understand any of the words coming out of her mouth. So she's also only 9 months, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Wait, hon, didn't you see Baby Geniuses? There, she's definitely talking.
yeah, she knows. What
Yeah,
she's doing.
that's right.
Wait, hon, is Baby Geniuses Disney? Hold on, I gotta Google this.
I don't think it is. I think it's is it DreamWorks? Maybe DreamWorks is
no
like
idea.
the next closest thing to Disney that isn't Disney.
I just saw it and was like, why did I just waste an hour and a half of my life?
Right. That and Dogs versus Cats, they're all like the same.
Yeah. Yep. Same kind of movie.
Dogs versus Cats. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was released by Sony Pictures, TriStar
Sony.
Pictures, and Crystal Sky Pictures.
Okay.
Also, quick tidbit: it cost $12 million to make it, and they made $36.5 million doing this.
What?
Essentially, it was
We
a
all
look
watched it,
who's.
yeah.
It was a poor version than Look Who's Talking.
Who's Talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
After they made 6 of those, they're like, okay, we got to stop putting numbers and just rename it something else.
Yeah, they're like, get the guy from Back to the Future and a talking baby. Hit movie.
Yeah. 30 million. Easy.
30 million.
Wow.
Done.
Okay.
Let's get steak for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, according to the original schedule, we only have about 15 minutes left. So we're going to move on to our final section, our final question of the night. And there were still even so many more things on the notes that we could have talked about. This is just such a big topic and so many things we can talk about in it. So I want to leave us with this. What is the Christian's response? What is our response to culture, and what is our role in culture? Should we be reactive or should we be proactive? What is our role, our job in the world today as Christians, as someone with a biblical worldview? Do we just need to hide from all this evil, wicked, sinful stuff around us? Do we need to be out there influencing and creating culture and shaping culture? What's our role? What's our job? What do we need to be doing in this kind of a world? What do y'all think? Ferris, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think on this one? What's our role?
I think we need to be proactive
that's
in.
There we go.
I think we need to be proactive in the understanding that the world is going to be the world. It is sinful. It is selfish. It is worried about itself. So, proactive in its preparation. Be prepared to encounter sinners and sin. Jesus went after Zacchaeus, not because Zacchaeus had believed yet, but because Zacchaeus needed the gospel, and he identified him out of a crowd in a tree and goes, "Hey, Zacchaeus, you're having a dinner party tonight." And he's like, "Cool, where at?" And he's like, "Your house, and I'm the guest of honor." And Zacchaeus is like, "Well, okay, we'll take care of this." So there needs to be some proactiveness of if you are going to live and talk to people who don't believe in Jesus, be prepared for them to drastically not believe in Jesus. But then I also think that we need to be properly prepared to be reactive. Reactive doesn't necessarily mean negative. It is to be able to respond with the gospel when contested. Right. So well, what are you doing? Are you watching the new Baymax? You know what? Hey, my kids wanted to watch it, so I put in 2 episodes, 3 episodes. I watched it, and you know what? We decided not to watch that show because of some of the messaging. We're not ready to be able to introduce that subject to our students. It's the same thing with like sports or football or art. Right. Just in general art. I'm not taking my son to go watch medieval art and see a bunch of naked women plastered eating fruit. He's gonna be like, "Why are those ladies naked?" I'm like, "Son, I'm not
Super Bowl halftime shows."
Right? Yeah. Right. So, but we also need to be we need to be rightly reactive and expecting of the world to be the world, and for us to respond in the gospel, right? To hold to truth. Like that's the thing that separates us, is not responding like the world expects us to. It's not jumping on the bandwagon and being like, "Yay, Disney does everything well," and I'm like, "It's amazing." But when they put something out, it's also not just be like, "This is the worst company in the world." It's realizing like, "Hey, this is a worldly company. If it's gonna change, maybe Christians need to go work at Disney, right?
Right.
Maybe they need to pitch them, right? If Disney's all about money and they follow culture, then Christians, let's change culture, right? Let's find unity and momentum and shoot. If throwing a gigantic cross on the top of Epcot is what's going to draw Disney more money, I promise you they're going to do it. But they follow what the almighty dollar, because that's what they worship. So, like, is it proactive? Is it reactive? We need to be proactive in our preparation of understanding that uh, we are warriors behind enemy lines that are constantly trying to destroy us, and rightly reactive when the enemy bears its face at us to present the gospel. That's
Yeah.
our response, is
Yeah.
to be Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that was a whole mini soup box there. That was
Right.
good. We weren't even doing soup boxes, and you served us some soup. Yeah, that's good. Good word, Ferris. So Shadow, I'll kind of shift it, or take just a part of it and throw it your way. Is what are
Sure.
some practical steps that we can take to do that, to put some teeth to that? How do we influence culture? How do we shape culture? Because if these companies and if this world and whatever if they are just going to chase the almighty dollar, how do we help be a part in shifting the culture to where eventually those companies shift along with us?
Right. Yeah, I think there's a number of different ways. And this is what gets me really excited, and why I love working in the church, is because as a body of believers, right? Like, even here amongst the 50 people we have hanging out and tuning in, there's so many people with different passions, different giftings, different experiences, that the idea of, like, we all on some level need to be responsible and being reactive and proactive, like Ferris was saying. But for some of us, God's going to put in our heart a desire to be an animator, to be somebody who's can draw and make stuff and create, like, the super creative sides of people that I definitely can't do on that front of drawing or animating things, right? And for you, that's going to be where you get to be reactive and proactive and helping make things. For some of you, that's not going to be your thing at all, but you're going to be someone who's able to make a good amount of money. Not that you're greedy, but that God is going to bless you financially in your jobs, in your roles, to be in a position where you could actually fund better programming. You could be the one who helps influence with the money that you're making smaller projects, other things. I know I've gotten this commercial probably at least 7 or 8 times. I'm sure some of you guys have too on YouTube. Of I forget what it is. I think it's a small studio, but they grabbed people who were Christians, because believe it or not, there were a lot of Christians that did work at Disney throughout the years. People who did a lot of the classic Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, all those things, like animators and writers and stuff. And the smaller companies actually scoop some of them up. Oh, it's for David and Goliath. They're doing a animated version of David and Goliath. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet. I'll find out the
No.
name of it by the end of this show. But they're talking about it, and they're like their commercials, like, pretty clever and snazzy. It's like, yeah, how do you make something more boring? In Hollywood, with all its money, did Noah, and then it showed, like, the last Noah movie that was so far off and, like, horrible. He's like, this is what happens when you send someone, a worldly person, to do a Christian's job. Like, let us do this. And it was like, like, just the commercial alone for them saying, like, support us, was awesome. And so for some of you guys, that's going to be a really great way of how you're investing your money and where you're putting it into to have better programming. For a lot of people, is going to be a component of it, like we've been talking about tonight, in how you are raising your kids, in what you are allowing them to see and watch and do. And finding that hard line is going to look a little different in all of our convictions. But a passage I do want to remind us and leave us on is 1 Corinthians 15:33. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Right. And so, like we've been saying, this is a new aspect for so many people, right? The Bible's was written in a time where TV wasn't a real thing, right? So, of course, it's not going to give you guidelines and rules on how much TV time is good or bad, but understanding that the TV, like we've been saying here, what Deucin was saying, that's not the person who should be raising your kids, shouldn't be teaching them the values that they have. It's not their youth group or your children's ministry that's supposed to just be doing that for you. But we need to actually be parents who are invested, who are learning and growing and setting the example for us, for our kids, on what it looks like to have a relationship with God and understand the gospel more clearly. That's going to be, if we start there, I think that'll help impact, create better Christians for the next generation who can create better Christians for the next one. And that could be a great way to continue to influence those. Unfortunately, this hasn't even been the case. As someone who went to Bible college and had so many friends who grew up in Christian homes, or more specifically, like pastoral people who were pastors' kids, PKs, or missionaries' kids, or just worked in the church, all went through this rebellious age because they weren't allowed to watch anything Disney. They weren't allowed to even look at a Harry Potter poster, right? And so you can only do that for so long before eventually, if you don't give a why, if you don't have this relationship with your children, and you don't help them develop and understand the gospel better, they're all going to eventually rebel at some point. They might hopefully come back around to it, but so many of them. And so that's, for me, as I have my 9-month-old daughter sleeping right in this other room, looking through and trying to balance that out and listening to what these guys are all saying of how to better parent, so that I'm not just cutting them out completely of the world and shoving them in a cave, but I'm also being really careful of how much of an influence I'm allowing these things to have, and making sure I have a greater influence, that God has a greater influence in their life than just these things. I think if we looked at those three things, what are my gifts and talents? What resources do I have to be able to fund better projects? And how do I be a better parent? Starting even pre having kids, how do I start working into a better discipleship program that I can implement into my family when I do have kids? If we did those three things, forget it, man. I think we could really influence culture and change the world. But that's for me. What I
I didn't even expect one bowl of soup, and we got two. Yes, absolutely. Those are awesome. Man, a lot of wisdom there. I agree 100% with what both of y'all are saying. I don't think there's anything I can add. I don't want to feel useless, but that's really good. Man, yeah, I agree. Using our gifts, our talents, our abilities, sending our kids, preparing our kids into the world is so big. And just always remembering our two jobs as Christians, and wherever that fits into this is the Great Commandment and the Great Commission. We have to be about both of those things. The Great Commandment, loving the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and loving our neighbor as ourself. You can talk about all the practicalities of what that looks like and how that works itself into influencing culture and being in the world, but not of the world, and all that. But then at the same time, we have an agenda, I guess you could say, with going into all the world, sharing the gospel. If I truly love my neighbor, I'm going to tell them the truth in love. We're called to go into all the world, making disciples of all nations, teaching them to observe all the things that Christ has taught us, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, preaching the gospel to all creation. And Jesus said, and lo, I'm with you always to the end of the age. So remembering he is with us, and we have a job to do, and we're still here, we're still breathing. That means, hey, God's still got a plan and purpose for your life. So like 1 Corinthians 13:31 says, so in whatever you do, if you're eating or drinking or whatever, do it all unto the glory of God. So use your giftings, your talents, your abilities to shape the future, to shape the culture. If you're an artist, be the best artist you can for the glory of God, and use those gifts to further the gospel, to love your neighbor, to love God, all those kind of things. Fill in the blank with whatever it is, and then training your kids right, parenting them right. Man, there's been so much wisdom in this episode. This is a lot of good stuff. So, guys, I want to thank you for everything tonight, for everything that y'all have said. This has been great. And chat, thank you so much for being with us tonight. This has been a really good one. If you missed any of it, the VOD will be up for a little bit. I'm sure we'll get it up on YouTube or Spotify or something somewhere. I really still don't know the process on how all that works, but it will be somewhere on the internet. You'll be able to find it. This is our 8th season of doing the show, and I still don't know how that works, but it'll be up somewhere. So you
keep
can
looking
find it.
pretting and hosting the week's.
All right, there we go.
That's right.
We'll do that.
That's
I'll
right.
just keep
Just
brushing
keep-
the beard.
Yeah,
and
keep growing the
Amen.
beard.
there we go. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
So
Hey, what is
y'all-
what's coming next week, y'all?
Next week is Deucin. Is that when we're having the priest jump in? Yeah,
I haven't heard back. I haven't heard
Okay.
back. So I don't know.
Anyone knows a good priest with good internet?
So
We
we
would love
have
to
a
have them on
question
that.
in the queue, but we're and it's about what is the difference of the distinction between pastors and priests. So Catholicism, Protestantism, and what does like ministry look like in those? And we're trying, and I think we have a priest who is familiar with streaming and stuff, who would be a part of it, but it's been hit or miss on communication. So I don't know. That's one in the queue. I don't know when we're going to hit that one, but eventually that episode will happen. So
Heck
We'll just get a Ninja's brother.
Yes, yeah,
Blevins.
chat. Just
Oh,
start
Bearded
tagging
Blevins.
Bearded
have his-
Blevins.
I
who
have
was
his
a
number.
Catholic student pastor for a long time.
He's here in the
Yeah.
area. He's in my area. Yeah, we can reach out to him. We could, if need
Okay.
be. If we actually do really need another priest,
Yeah.
seems pretty knowledgeable. So I mean, I feel like he'd be comfortable coming on.
Okay.
But
That'd be fun.
next week, if not, I don't think we'll get him that quickly in the turnaround. If not, next week is the gift of prophecy real, righteous, and edifying? So is the
That'd
gift
be a
of
fun one.
prophecy real, righteous, and edifying? So
Nice.
episode 10 of this season coming in hot.
Be a good one. We've had a lot of good ones this season.
Yeah. Actually, wait, is this going to be the last? Technically, what we could do next week is the 30th, or next Sunday is the 30th. It's the day before Halloween. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
did have a Halloween special planned. That
It's
maybe
true.
if we want to do it, it's what is evil according to the Bible, specifically looking at
Hocus Pocus, too.
Halloween. Yeah, Hocus Pocus. But what is actually considered evil according to the Bible? That was the
yeah.
Halloween special, so we could do that one.
Okay.
Their
So-
exact question is, what does the Bible say is actually evil? Is it magic? Is it spells? Is it dressing up? Is it horror movies? All that and more on the Halloween special.
Hey, well, that seems like that should be the night that we do it. It wouldn't make much sense to do it in November. So
And I think we should all come in costume.
Oh,
Specifically,
I think so.
the one that we all have to match with each
100%.
other.
And then first thing we say, what is evil? Is getting in costumes evil? Yes.
Yes.
And we all just stare in the
absolutely.
camera. Yes, 100%.
We'll just pull in.
100%.
Yeah. So that's coming next week. So make sure you're following the GMA Twitch channel so you don't miss that. But that'll be a fun one. Before we end the show and raid and all that kind of stuff, I want to give these guys a moment and opportunity to let you know where you can find them, how you can support them, how you can watch them, all that kind of stuff, what they're going to be doing. So Ferris, what are you going to be up to this week? How can people find you and connect with you?
I've been a whole lot more present on Twitter recently. Come and hang out with me there. God's doing some cool stuff this year. Kind of like I was actually talking with these guys before we kicked off the show. Kind of like where content and stuff will be going whenever I'm back, and hopefully I'm back sooner than later. It's been so long since I streamed that I need to update some graphics and stuff. But follow me anywhere online as Ferris Storm. And if you like sarcasm, come hang out with me. I'm just a little bit sarcastic. I think that's my love language. I think so.
Yeah. I could second that. Okay. Shadow, how about you? How can people connect with you?
Yeah, you guys can connect with me mostly through YouTube. That's where I've mainly been. I'll be live on there tomorrow as well. It's just youtube.com/SuperShadowX right now. I'm hoping to change that with the new handle system that they're introducing. So yeah, you guys can find me on there or on Twitch, twitch.tv/SuperShadow. I've been kind of doing this restream kind of to both right now with my live stream stuff, but have new videos coming out pretty much 2 every single week. Moving forward, we're closing in on monetization and just that like goal of 1,000 subscribers. And then after that, we're going to be doing a 24-hour live stream raising funds for St. Jude. So come join us. We'd love to have you guys be a part of all the things we're doing on there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Good deal. And then you can find me here on Twitch and YouTube and Twitter and wherever, just at Pastor Dustin. My name's the same everywhere on the internet. I'll be streaming this week, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, streaming here on Twitch. But also, I'm in kind of the same boat as Shadow, working on getting partnered on YouTube, and we're getting really, really close. So do me a favor, go pick one of my playlists, put it on repeat, and I'll thank you forever. And that would be amazing because we're very, very close. So
we are. My goal is to catch Dustin and pass him, but he is so close.
There you go.
You guys do not understand how close he is. So go support him, but support me more. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Just pull up 2 tabs, and there you go. Just let some of the content play. Yes, please.
I had a video blow up. It has like 15K right now, and I'm like, I just got to do that like 2 more times over, and I will catch
Bingo.
Dustin.
Bingo. That's it.
Come
That's
on.
what you got to do. So,
that
but they
one
weren't
video
short.
alone
That wasn't a short. That was a full-length video.
Like an actual video. It was on my video of Maverick City. It got, and let me tell you right now how many hours it got. It got
5-6 hours maybe.
No. It got 779 hours.
Boom. Let's go. Dude.
So,
man, that's and see, the nice thing about that is that's on brand, like with your content.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because my biggest one is it's huge and it's awesome and whatever, but it's a camera review, which is fine, but it's not like the bulk of my content. Like I do a little bit of that kind of stuff, but mostly I do like, Bible studies and stuff. So I don't know. But hey, maybe they find it for the tech review and then they see something else with an intriguing question about the Bible and maybe they watch it. I don't know.
There's a chance.
That's the hope anyway. All right. Well, y'all, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank y'all so much for being here. We're about to send a raid, and I said, you know what? It only seems appropriate that on an episode where we talked about Disney, we have to send a raid over to Jafar.
That's right.
Bad guy from Aladdin is streaming right now, so we're going to send a raid over to him. Looks like he's just chatting right now, reacting to some stuff. So let's go watch and see what he's doing tonight. I can set that up. Let me do that real quick.
Get in there and ask him the question on should Christians watch Disney movies or not. And we'll see what his response is.
Yes.
I will be ecstatic if he says absolutely not. And then ask him what his favorite Disney movie is. His name is Jafar.
He's going to say Aladdin 3 or something like that.
Does he still have the great command up?
I'm not
I don't know. If so, we're gonna see if it's a channel point thing or a command or something. I can't remember, but if it is, we're gonna do it, and it's amazing. You'll love it. Trust me. All right, so let's go send the raid. Thank y'all so much for being with us. We will see y'all next